Hello and welcome to Your Government in Action, a presentation of Bahamas Information Services. I'm Carissa Williamson. Caribbean leaders responsible for the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification and Drought convened in the capital on August 8th and 9th, 2024 for the pre-conference for the parties, or pre-COP16. An opening ceremony was held at SLS Bahamar on August 8th, 2024.
The UNCCD is one of the least known conventions in the Caribbean. And for that reason, we meaning the Caribbean community, through the ministers responsible for the UNCCD, created the Partnership Initiative for Sustainable Land Management. As they say, more hands make light work. And so the task of the PISLM is to facilitate and help countries meet their obligations under the convention. And we are one of the, I think, the only agency that treats with land and soil issues. Now, all of this to simply say that our work is for and on behalf of the peoples of the Caribbean. Nothing we do should be seen otherwise. And so at this pivotal meeting, the ministers will be gathering to deliberate and consider policy options around how can we ensure that this region and the global community hear the voices of the small island developing states, of which we 14 plus islands that dot the Caribbean Sea are part of. We do not contribute to the climate challenges that we face, but we are on the front lines.
The Bahamas were deeply honored and most grateful to host this event, providing a platform for Caribbean leaders who share similar concerns to collaborate and to unite in our efforts. We gather here with a shared purpose and a collective resolve to address the environmental challenges that threatens our very existence. The Caribbean region, renowned for its breathtaking beauty and rich biodiversity, faces unique vulnerabilities. Our islands are on the front lines of climate change, experiencing rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and the degradation of our precious land resources. While each of our individual efforts can lead to small steps of progress, it is only as a united front that we make significant and lasting change. Separately, our steps may seem small, but together we have the power to make a profound impact. Our unity, our shared vision, and our collective actions are what will drive us towards a more resilient and sustainable Caribbean.
The world is experiencing what I call a triple planetary crisis: addressing the climate change, protecting biodiversity, and nurturing ecological restoration of our land have become an urgent priority for all of us. The biggest threat to security of the world, in my view, is environmental destruction. These threats, of course, move the Commonwealth of Nations, of which we are part, to craft something was called the Living Lands Charter, to which I draw each of your attention to. This charter takes a system-wide approach toward implementing about 5 thematic actions. One is climate resilient agriculture for food, security soil and water conservation, sustainable green cover and biodiversity, carbon neutral and climate resilient livestock rearing and animal husbandry, and more importantly, indigenous and local people for climate resilient development. And I commend the Living Lands Charter to all of you. Colleagues, the quality of life we enjoy tomorrow will depend on the decisions we make today. So let us unite our lands. Let us protect and replenish the earth beneath our feet. Doing so will have significant payoffs in the short and long term. Healthy lands mitigate climate change, contribute to our economies, and support human health, nutrition, and general well-being. Proper land preservation also goes hand in hand with combating the rising incidence of drought and desertification in our region. Conservation of essential resources will be key as we advance regional development and work toward achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In this common mission, it will be important to harmonize our policies and unify our voices. We face similar struggles, and so we stand to benefit tremendously from coordinating policies, sharing knowledge, and speaking with one voice on the world stage. When we go to Riyadh, let us go with our hearts and minds in harmony, committed to the noble cause of Caribbean well-being. Let us move the needle on the issues that matter most, my friends. Let us unite for land, our lands, which have already withstood so much.
Your government in action recently sat with Minister of National Security, the Honorable Wayne Monroe, to discuss the pressing concern of crime and safety in the Bahamas. Minister Monroe shared the concerns of his ministry, as well as ongoing and upcoming strategies to ensure a safer Bahamas.
The Commissioner addresses it often. You have swings in, for instance, the homicide rate. So you will have spate of murders where you have a killing that the police says retaliated against, and so you'll have a number of them in close succession. Then you won't have anything for a while. In the briefings that I received, the vast majority of them relate to gang activity. Unfortunately, one of the next highest class are domestic disputes, and not just as domestic in terms of domestic partners, but matters just that relate to anger issues. You're in a club, you get in an argument with someone, and someone goes away, gets a gun, comes back and shoots someone. So it's those types of matters where it is either by criminal activity that you're engaged in, or by people not being able to resolve conflicts, be it in the domestic circumstance or in a one-on-one, person-to-person circumstance. The other troubling aspect, though, is armed robbery, especially the stealing of vehicles. And that is a matter that is very troubling, because in that instance, you don't choose by your behavior, your interaction with either being involved in gang behavior or how you interact with other persons. That's not how you become a victim of that crime. So that is a very troubling matter that I'm made to understand the police have put together a task force to seek to address. Well, you have a number of threats. One you identified as human smuggling. You do have now a resurgence we've seen in cocaine trafficking. You've also had poaching events. They have to be addressed with our regional partners. And we, the Royal Bahamas Defence Force, cooperates together with the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Customs also has maritime patrols in some areas. They cooperate with our regional partners. So on illegal migration and trafficking, we cooperate with the Cuban Border Patrol. We cooperate with the Coast Guard 7th District. And we also have assistance from Northern Command, NORAD of the U.S. Defense agencies. We also cooperate with the Turks and Caicos in making sure that we can be aware of what is approaching our domain, what is in our domain. We continue to install coastal radars. There's one installed at HMBS Coral Harbor in New Providence, one installed at Matthewtown, Inagua, one about to be installed in Ragged Island, and eventually it's hoped that they will be installed also on the western side of Andros and Abaco, and there'll be a total of 8 other coastal radars, but the 2 that are destined now are for Ragged Island and Exuma if it can be resolved. It is a matter that the Defense Force is participating in a blockade, and we participate so that persons accept responsibility for an area. Imagine that the Bahamas is laid out over 100,000 square miles of ocean and seas, and then there are the approaches to that. The Defense Force has been very successful in interdicting migrant vessels that approach the Bahamas. We've cooperated with Turks and Caicos in interdicting migrants in their waters, and we give those migrants the Turks and Caicos for them to interdict. The Coast Guard also interdicts in some areas and hands over to us as well. So there's good cooperation there that serves to keep our borders secure, and we have a very good relationship with our partners.
Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, the Honorable Chester Cooper, during his contribution in the House of Assembly on July 17, 2024, said that a compendium of bills, once debated, passed, and implemented, will equip the Bahamas with a competitive intellectual properties framework that will bring the nation to a global standard as well as protect creators.
These bills will be transformative and have been called for decades. In simple terms, the work of creatives like musicians, authors, visual artists, photographers, filmmakers, playwrights, content creators, as well as innovators in research and technology and related industries will be better protected. We will also now have 2 digitally equipped standalone companies and records registrars that will better meet the needs of the general public. Mr. Deputy, our cause as a member of the local community is to put in place laws that it makes it easier to do business and protect the work of our citizens. I am personally excited about the prospects of finally having a comprehensive IP framework to protect the brands and ideas of the many innovative entrepreneurs and creatives within our economy. As a friend of the creative entrepreneurs and the orange economy, I am delighted to be able to lead this debate. As the Minister responsible for investments, I cannot stress enough the significance of this moment for the strengthening of our investment framework. Through these proposed amendments, we will make our jurisdiction more appealing for both domestic and foreign direct investments. Any business person, whether they are Bahamian or an international investor, wants to ensure that their brand, their products, and innovative ideas are in fact protected. And that's why so many of our citizens seek this protection abroad. Fortunately, Mr. Deputy, after many, many years of industry observers calling for change, an administration is finally in place that has done the necessary work and that is bringing our IP laws fully into the 21st century.
More of Your Government in Action when we return. Welcome back. In a press conference held at the Office of the Prime Minister on August 8, 2024, Chief Operating Officer for Bahamas Power and Light, Tony Seymour, addressed electricity generating challenges on the island of Eleuthera and what is being done short-term and long-term to remedy these challenges.
Increasing load demands and a series of unforeseen challenges have contributed to the continual outages, primarily concentrated in North and Central Eleuthera. Despite challenges, we continue to exploit all available options to restore supply in the short term. At the same time, BPL is continuing its long-term strategy to bring vast improvement to the electrical infrastructure on the mainland of Eleuthera, as well as Harbour Island. To understand the challenges in Eleuthera, we have to put the island's unique makeup into perspective. Eleuthera is one of 2 islands where we operate 3 separate power stations. Moreover, the more than 110-mile-long coverage area provides challenges for our distribution service teams. Most of the outages customers experience in Eleuthera are outside of BPL's control. We've had weather disturbances, traffic accidents, construction damage, and even wildlife have contributed to some of the events. We've spoken about the challenges before, but what's important for our customers in Eleuthera and Harbour Island to know is that we are working. In terms of our short-term solutions, we plan to install an additional 5 megawatts of generation at our Rock Sound power station to increase reliability of what is considered to be an aging plant. 6 megawatts of rental generation in at the Hatchet Bay power station. And we are also upgrading the subsea cable between the mainland Eleuthera and Harbour Island to ensure that we are able to adequately meet the growing demands on Harbour Island. All of these projects are expected to be completed before the end of September 2024.
With the goal of bringing further awareness to the concern of climate change and global warming, the Ministry of Health and Wellness held a recognition ceremony for Climate Emergency Day. The ceremony was held in Rawson Square on August 7th, 2024.
One of the most critical challenges of our time. It's the urgent need to keep global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius and to confront the far-reaching impact of climate change. In the Bahamas, we are unfortunately not strangers to the negative impacts of climate change. Names like Joaquin, Irma, Matthew, and oh, who can forget Dorian, are names that we'll never forget in the Bahamas. They were all unwelcomed, rude visitors. They've become household names. Some households dare not even speak their names. The science is clear and unequivocal. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, has warned us that we are rapidly approaching a point of no return, where the consequences of our actions will be irreversible and catastrophic. Just recently, in the Bahamas, we experienced an extended drought, extreme heat that led to forest fires on 3 of our islands all at once: Andros, Abaco, and here on the island of New Providence. We are in the middle of the Atlantic hurricane season. Unprecedented ocean temperatures are fueling the most massive, powerful, and destructive storms that the world has ever seen. Rising sea levels and vanishing glaciers. The evidence is all around us. We are at an inflection point, and the decisions we all make today will impact our communities, our economies, and our ecosystems today and future generations.
We all know about the devastation effects of climate change. We live in Hurricane Alley. I know in Grand Bahama, every year we sit and wait to see exactly what's going to come our way. And the effects are always extremely challenging to growth and development of those economies. But today, I'm here to talk a bit about health and the impact climate change has on health. And if we take the example of Hurricane Dorian and the devastation effect after, we would see that there's climate refugees, there's climate migration, there's the impact of climate as it relates to the delivery of healthcare services. And when you look at the way how these tropical storms come and hurricanes come into our jurisdiction, they usually come up the line of the archipelago, affecting clinic by hospital, and the list goes on and on. The Prime Minister, in his charge to the world, has clearly articulated that a large portion of our national debt is directly tied in with climate change. And he is on the world stage pushing back for reparations as a direct result of climate change. When we look at health, it is clear that about 5% of the devastation effect for carbon footprint is as a result of healthcare delivery systems. And the Bahamas have both a mitigation and an adaptation plan in the way how we deliver healthcare services throughout the country. If you look at what we've been doing, we are presently renovating 51 clinics throughout the archipelago, many that were directly impacted as a result of hurricanes. And we are talking about constructing 2 new state-of-the-art hospitals in the sum of approximately $500 million. Now, Dr. Swan and Dr. Neely made it very clear that the construction of healthcare facilities must take into consideration the components with climate change. It has to be solar-based. We need to reduce our carbon footprint as good stewards of the environment. And we must also demonstrate in the world that even though we are affected by climate change and the emission of greenhouse gases may be very minimal in the Bahamas, we are taking the necessary step to create a green economy and to ensure that we are good stewards with the environment. So as we begin to educate our community about the devastation effects of climate change, we must be mindful as a government that we have to attack climate change from a multi-ministerial approach. Agriculture, to ensure that we are able to feed ourselves, the environment, those who are responsible for protecting what God has given us and how we generate our revenue, which is 60 to 70% of each dollar from our tourism sector. So as we begin to develop our healthcare infrastructure, we begin to understand the impacts of coastal erosion and climate change on our way of life. And so as we move from place to place throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, it's important that we educate Bahamians everywhere that it is paramount that you become a part of our drive for protecting our environment and the impacts of climate change in our community. I would like to commend the Ministry of Environment, my team at the Ministry of Health, and those who were responsible for the production. I believe it's timely. It was done very well, and I encourage you that as we take on the mantle of the development of Health National Adaptation Plan, we do so with a degree of pride and a degree of urgency so that we can demonstrate to the world that climate change that is brought on by the impact of emission of greenhouse gases is affecting healthcare delivery systems throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And we believe the time has come now, as we interact with the international community, that there should be some mechanism of compensation as a direct result of what is being pushed into the air by industrial countries.
Under the theme Celebrating a Legacy of Excellence, the Ministry of Immigration held a passing out ceremony for recruits of the A Squad. The ceremony was held at the Royal Bahamas Police Force Training College on August 8, 2024.
The significance of this ceremony is that today, the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is clothing each of the graduates here today with public power. The public power which is outlined in Section 8 of the Immigration Act, as of today, you will be able to exercise that power. And let me just, you will have the power at our 31 ports of entry to determine who enters the territory of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It is called the power of admissibility. You will determine on behalf of the Bahamian people whether a visitor, a guest worker, even a diplomat can enter the territory of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. You will also have the power with respect to any reasonable suspicion. You will be able to enter without a search warrant a ship or an aircraft landing in the Bahamas. You will be able to stop someone on the street or in a public space if you have a reasonable suspicion that that person was not properly landed in the Bahamas. You will be involved in the preparation of files for consideration for work permits, permits to reside, spousal permit, permanent residency, and citizenship. This awesome sovereign power that you will exercise must be exercised in accordance with the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and natural justice. You have a responsibility in the exercise of this public power.
I'm Carissa Williamson, and this has been Your Government in Action, a proud presentation of Bahamas Information Services. Join us on Tuesday evenings where we bring you highlights, coverage, and information as we continue to do what we do best, linking people and government.